So good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Cost and Affordability breakout session. I'm Mark Chabria from the County of Marin Sustainability Team, and I coordinate the county's Electrify Marin rebate program, which offers rebates to homeowners who want to replace natural gas or propane appliances with efficient electric ones. So the county started this program in 2019 to address some of the cost and affordability issues that are associated with the transition away from using fossil fuels in our homes. So it's very appropriate that the topic of this session is cost and affordability. Our goal here is really to generate a good discussion and answer some questions as best we can. And in just a moment, we'll be using the chat feature to take questions from the community. If you don't have access to chat, you're welcome to just use the raise hand feature and I'll unmute you and you can ask live. And then when this session's over, as you know, new presenters will be rotated in. So I would like to quickly introduce and reintroduce our subject matter experts who are going to do their best to answer the questions that come through, answer or comment on the questions that come through. So first we have Sandy Louby, Senior Manager at Energy Solutions. Sandy leads implementation strategy for the statewide Tech Clean California program, which focuses on heat pump conversions from natural gas and propane. They track costs, and a major pillar of the program is to reduce costs for heat pumps to expand market share of installations. And second, we've already met Danuta Dostrovich, energy specialist in the Building Standards Office of the California Energy Commission. Danuta manages the local ordinance application process within the CEC. And local energy ordinances, as with the energy code, are required to demonstrate cost effectiveness in order to be enforceable. So just to get the conversation started, I'm going to direct a very broad question to each of our subject matter experts, and then we'll move into some questions from the community. So the first question is for Danuta. We hear a lot about gas being a cheaper fuel than electricity. For the typical utility customer or the typical resident, is gas really cheaper than electricity? Danuta, are you here or are you on mute?
Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now. Perfect.
Oh, okay. My speaker has somehow died on the computer, so I'm calling in.
Okay, perfect. You sound great. So I just started with that first question, that first intro question, and if you could comment on that. So we hear a lot about gas being a cheaper fuel than electricity. For the typical utility customer, is that the case? Is gas really cheaper than electricity?
I'm going to say what I said in the last breakout room, which is that it truly depends. It depends upon the building and the type of use within the building. And it depends on the appliances within the building and how efficient they are. One of the things to know is that gas can only be sized down so far. So as a building becomes more efficient, if the envelope is more efficient, then sometimes a gas appliance is actually oversized for the load. Electricity is a lot more nimble. And it also depends upon the energy efficiency improvements to the building or how energy efficient the building is to begin with. And then it's going to also vary with whether or not there are photovoltaic panels providing electricity to the building, and also time of day rates. And basically it's something that needs to be done building by building to get a comprehensive analysis of, in this building, in this application, with these activities within the building, which is really cheaper, gas or electricity. And I'm sorry to be so, I'm sorry I couldn't give you a definitive answer.
No, and again, I think it's a great answer and sort of sheds, it's a good sort of shows the complexity of some of the issues that we're talking about, and also really the importance of the efficiency of of electric appliances. So that's great. Appreciate that. So the next broad question is for Sandy. What are the costs of electrification to builders and to homeowners?
It depends very much on what is in place for that particular building. And usually you want to start with that question with panel capacity and figure out what you've already got there, what you're going to need to get to. Are you starting with 100 amp and you need to go to a 2? And the second question is, if you do need to go up, do you have capacity coming in out of the line from the street? That's actually proved to be a barrier in not a lot of cases, but it does happen that the lines coming in from the street just won't handle that capacity either. And once you've got capacity at the panel, now you've got to look at how are you going to get the power that you need to various places. For example, for a stove, do you have enough line running over there? Or heat pump water heaters are another place where you run into challenges. I know when I installed mine, I had to add another 30 amp circuit running out to the garage for my heat pump water heater. So you can get into some very considerable costs. It really depends on the building and the capacity of what's already there.
Great. Thank you, Sandy. So we'll open it up to questions and comments from the community. Again, we'd like you to enter your question into the chat box if you can, but if you can't access that, feel free to just raise your hand and we'll let you ask your question live.
So I'll answer Jay's question real quick. We are studying. That's actually one of the things that we're doing on the tech program is we are tracking the energy use on every single installation that we make on the program to make absolutely certain that we're doing honestly the right thing. Because when you're working with low income customers, you need to do no harm. You can't be adding to their energy costs in the name of decarbonization. So it's an evaluation that goes differently for every single household. Some households are going to wind up spending a little bit more, but they may want to do that because that's a position that they want to take, that they're going to carve out and stand up and say, I'm willing to pay a little bit more in order to decarbonize.
Great.
And another issue that does not come into our calculations when we're only looking at energy savings is health. So there's definitely a health impact to having gas combustion within a building envelope, and that's primarily from cooking. So the health impacts are something that we don't evaluate financially, but they're definitely something that is a concern, and the California Air Resources Board is looking at that very closely as well.
Great. So we've got several other questions.
Yeah, Mark, I'm not sure if we'll be able to get to those. We need to start rotating, unfortunately, but we are saving the chat, so we'll try to answer these as much as we can after the meeting.
Great. And by the way, there's an FAQ on the county's webpage for the Green Building Code update, and it's constantly updated. And you can also submit questions through that webpage. So check that out if you're looking for more questions or more answers.
And comments are also welcome if you don't have a specific question. We'd love feedback from everything that you have seen so far this evening.
I would absolutely agree. If we leave something out, please let us know, because we need to learn too sometimes.
Bill, I think I beat you.
Raised hand from Gretchen and Bill.
I'll try. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Gretchen.
Great. Okay, I'll try to be really brief. I think, so I'm with the city of Novato, and thank you so much, Sandy and Danuta, for being with us today. I think both of your responses to these two questions kind of hit the nail on the head for a lot of municipalities about their reluctance to adopt ordinances, because it still depends. And so I think we, as as advocates, as people who are interested in moving this ball down the field, we just got to figure out the answer to that question so that it doesn't freak people out. I appreciate your candor and I totally get it, but until we can have an answer that will satisfy the development and building industry and building officials, I think we're going to struggle to get widespread adoption. If that's not a question, that's a comment. I'm sorry.
No, and that's, yeah, I completely agree with you there. And that's where we have enormous policy challenges, because we simply don't know. And one of the things that we absolutely have to be careful not to do is to do no harm. Because we talk about this on tech all of the time, that it's wonderful to go in and electrify something, but we can't do that to a low income or somebody who's living close to the edge. We absolutely can't raise their bill in doing so. So it's there's so much we don't know. So you can't just put a blanket policy out there and say everybody must go here, because there are just so many nuances. And I'm sorry, Danuta, I stepped right on you.
No, that's fine. That's perfect. What we are seeing though is ordinances that are written with a lot of nuances. So if it's first of all, if it's a retrofit, it has to be a project that's already underway. So it has to be a renovation or an addition. They're not asking people to just go in and willy-nilly electrify. It has to be when you're doing something else. Secondly, if they run into a situation where it requires a major panel upgrade that's going to be exorbitant, then they will provide a list of other efficiency improvements that you can make that are much less expensive and cost effective. I mean, in the end, especially with a local ordinance, it has to pass through that filter of being cost effective for the project. So it needs to be written in such a way that that is pretty much assured, and that the building official also has discretion if there's any question about that. So I hope that helps a little bit.
I know we have one more question, but just want to let you know we have 2 minutes left in this one, and we'll rotate the panelists and facilitators.
Yeah,
go ahead, Bill.
Another question. Yeah, I want to expand the question also to Mark. I think this price issue, cost issue, is really obviously critical. And we have a program, Electrify Marin, which, along with other various incentives and subsidies, helps to close any gap between gas and electric. And I just wonder whether the county could make a goal to enhance that program such that there is, in fact, parity, at least parity, in the installation costs, et cetera. And in terms of operation, also, I mean, there certainly are precedents for subsidizing low-income families for electricity. So if you could respond to that, Mark.
Sure. Well, it's something that, again, this is an opportunity to get feedback from folks in the community as well. And so, we do have, within the Electrify Marin program, we do have higher rebates available for low-income households, which it's been taken advantage of a lot by members of that community. So, the program's been taken advantage of a lot, and it's been very popular. I don't expect it to go away anywhere soon, and your suggestion or feedback about expanding it, I think, is appreciated for sure. I'm going to answer Mary's question, or not answer it, but I'll just verbalize it. How is the cost of the climate crisis or not electrifying factored? Do either of you two want to comment on that?
Well, definitely, there's a lot of emphasis now, and this isn't reflected in our codes yet, but it is coming in. It's there in other parts of the world, and I think it's coming to a state or a community near us very soon, and that is the whole emphasis upon life cycle analysis. So that's looking at everything that's in the building from extraction of the materials, if a material is involved, to actual demolition. So it's taking into account not only the energy that's used, but the carbon impacts of that energy. Everything is then translated into so many tons of CO2. And those figures include all of the environmental impacts of using materials and using energy. So we are seeing that, we're seeing codes move in that direction, and that definitely is a more holistic and comprehensive approach at addressing climate change.